Welcome to Military Comebacks. There are moments in war when bravery doesn't come from rank, training, or orders. It comes from something deeper, from a soul that refuses to surrender. This is the story of Lieutenant Emma Hayes, a Navy medic, whose hands were trained to heal, not to take lives. But war has a way of demanding more than we ever expect, and on one night in the mountains, fate turned a healer into a warrior. It was 0300 hours when the radio shattered the darkness. Its panic bled through the static. A SEAL team was trapped behind enemy lines. Their extraction had failed. Communications were breaking down, and the forward post had only one person left listening, Emma. She was kneeling beside a wounded Marine, his pulse weak, his breath shallow, blood soaked through his bandages as distant gunfire echoed from the valley below. Then, suddenly, nothing. No shots. No radio chatter. Just silence. The kind that freezes your blood. Her heart slammed against her ribs. SEALs don't go quiet unless something has gone terribly wrong. Hayes, report, the commander's voice crackled through the radio. Sir, I've lost contact with Alpha Team, she replied, steady but tight. Stay put. Reinforcements are en route. She knew what that really meant. Reinforcements were hours away. SEALs didn't have hours. They had minutes. Emma looked down at the Marine she had just stabilized, then at her medic, bagged the symbol of everything she was. The thing that defined her. And then she made a choice. She dropped the bag. She picked up a rifle. Almost immediately, the silence broke. Gunfire erupted again, sharp and violent. Smoke filled the night air as Emma ran toward the valley, every step heavier than the last. 2 years earlier, these same SEALs had pulled her out of an ambush that nearly killed her. Tonight, it was her turn. She slid in behind a jagged rock and peered through the scope. 3 enemy fighters moved near a burning Humvee, dragging one of the SEALs across the dirt. Emma slowed her breathing, centered her aim, and fired. One dropped, then another. The third spun toward her, spraying bullets wildly. Dirt exploded inches from her face as she rolled, fired again, and brought the valley back to silence. She ran. Chief Daniels lay motionless ahead. Emma tore open his vest and pressed her hand to his chest. A faint heartbeat answered her touch. You're not dying today, she whispered. Gunfire cracked nearby. She dragged Daniels behind a fallen log as her training took over pressure on the wound, bandage tight, airway clear. Her hands shook, adrenaline roaring through her veins, her voice cut through her earpiece. Weak, but real. Hayes, is that you? Captain Rowe, she said, relief flooding her chest. I've got Daniels. He's alive. Negative. Hostiles everywhere. Stay low. Extraction at Bravo in 20 minutes. 20 minutes? Might as well have been 20 hours. Daniels' eyes fluttered open. You shouldn't be here, Doc, she smirked. You SEALs never follow medical advice. He managed a faint grin. Guess I taught you well? Movement flashed along the ridge. More enemies. 5, maybe 6. Emma loaded her last magazine. All right, Chief, she murmured. Let's make it count. The night erupted. Muzzle flashes lit her face in bursts of orange as she fired, moved, reloaded, and fired again. Calm drilled into her through years of medical emergencies, kept her alive. But ammo ran out fast. The last magazine clicked empty. She reached for Daniel's sidearm. 1 round. Boots crunched closer in the dirt. Emma waited, breath steady. She fired. The figure fell. Then a voice rose behind her. Low, close, don't move. She turned slowly. A tall enemy soldier stood there, rifle trained on her chest, eyes cold. You are far from base, medic, he said. Her pistol was empty. The rifle was useless. All she had left was the scalpel in her vest. No one is coming for you, he said, stepping closer. She smiled faintly. You sure about that? A gunshot thundered. The man dropped. Emma turned to see Captain Rowe standing there, limping, bloodied, alive. Thought you'd start the party without us, he said. She let out a shaky laugh. You took your time, sir. Together they hauled Daniels toward the ridge as helicopter blades thundered in the distance. Grenades exploded behind them, shrapnel ripping through the ground. Emma stumbled, but kept moving. "Go!" she shouted. "I'll cover you." "Negative," Roe barked. "I said go." Before he could argue, she turned back into the fire. Her rifle jammed, so she grabbed another from the ground and unleashed everything she had. A lone figure silhouetted against flames and smoke. As the helicopter lifted off, Roe looked down and saw her still fighting, hair whipping in the rotor wash, refusing to fall. Then the radio went dead. Silence again. At dawn, a patrol returned to the valley. Smoke drifted over bodies and wreckage. Then someone heard a groan. They found her beneath a collapsed wall, unconscious but breathing, her hands still locked. Around a rifle, 3 enemy fighters lay nearby. Weeks later, sunlight filtered into a quiet hospital room as Emma opened her eyes. Captain Rowe sat beside her. "You should have stayed at base," he said softly. She smiled weakly. "And miss all the fun?" He chuckled. "You disobeyed orders, Lieutenant?" "I saved lives, sir." "That you did?" He placed a battered rifle tag on her table, engraved with her name. "Your weapon. Thought you'd want it back." She stared at it, eyes shining. "It wasn't the weapon that mattered," he nodded. "No, it was the hands that held it." When she returned to base months later, the SEALs were waiting. Every man stood at attention as she passed. Daniels saluted first. "You saved us all," he said. "You're one of us." They handed her a worn SEAL patch. Real earned. Her story spread quietly. Not through ceremonies or medals, but through whispers. Remember Hayes, the medic who picked up the rifle? Because some stories don't need glory. They only need to be remembered. And sometimes, when the battlefield goes silent, it isn't fear you hear. It's respect. It's the sound of heroes being born. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Military Comebacks, where real stories of courage live forever,